Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Getting back to work on the MR2 in this video. Last video left off, I got the front under panels on as well as the front mud guards, rear mud guards, went to install them but didn't have the hardware that I needed equipped on the vehicle. So I did go ahead, order the stuff I need for installing the rears, should be here in a few days, so that is in play. Next thing I'm going to do is crawl back under the car, and I have the remaining splash shields and whatnot that I had taken down for doing the swap. I'm going to go ahead and start getting those parts reinstalled, including a couple grommets to fill in holes from the old throttle cable where it went through the body in different spots. So yeah, this video is going to be still just kind of cleaning stuff up, putting stuff back together, trying to get this thing ready to get back on the road. So I'm going to go ahead and get under the car. All right, so for now, I'm going to be using or reusing all my original trays and whatnot from underneath. As you can see in like some spots, I actually repaired these because they were cracked and I used plastic weld on them some time ago. They're just kind of filthy from sitting around a body shop. So I'm going to go over them, clean them up real quick, wipe them down with the Tubbo Towel cleaning wipes. Just try and make them look a little better and yeah, start getting all these things put into place under the car. All right, and then before putting this front tray in, I do want to get a grommet and fill that hole there. That's where the throttle cable went through the floor of the frunk. So I'm going to go ahead, see if I can find a grommet that'll fit the hole, get that filled, and I can go ahead and put the first tray in place. All right, and grommet's installed. Found it in my little kit of grommets. It was the M19.05. Fit the hole pretty well. It's good enough. It's going to stay in place. So going to go ahead and get the front tray installed. All right, so here you can see I've got the front center panel, the next panel after that. Those are put back into place. I went to go and do this panel, and one of my previous repairs cracked. So I just kind of said, screw it, I'm going to bite the bullet. I ordered this panel here, which is the last one that goes under the passenger compartment, and then I also ordered the small one that goes over here because mine, even though it's repaired, it's mangled. It's not the best repair, so ordered those two as well. So that is where I'm going to end as far as installing the under panels at the moment. New parts are on order from MR2 Heaven, so hopefully those will go in nicely as well, and I'll get all the panels back on and it'll look nice. So I think next thing I'm going to work on is bundling up some of the loose wiring, putting in some clamps, things like that, to try and just give like final locations to wires and parts and whatnot so nothing's dangling or in the way. All right, so like I said, next thing on the list is going to be just kind of getting some of these wires tied up and out of the way, make sure they're not too loose, not going to hang on things, cause any problems. So first things, I'm going to take a look at the O2 sensor wires, just kind of get them zipped up to something. This one's pretty accessible. The one on the back side of the engine, it's hard to see up in there. But I think I already have it pretty zip tied up from above, but I'll take another quick look just to make sure there's nothing that's gonna hit an exhaust pipe and cause any issues. So that's first on the list. Gonna get this one taken care of, and then I'll move over to the other side. I want to do some just kind of final separation of some of these hoses, lines, wires, etc. Before I put the belly pan on and call the underside done. All right, so I just kind of looped this together, tied it together, so now it's pretty good. It's not gonna hit the exhaust or anything. I've got a few ties over on these things over here, as far as just holding the wires in place. That's just the stuff, the two sending units for the oil gauges. As far as the backside O2 sensor goes, it is a little loose, so I need to go up above to make sure it's not going to fall or hit the prop shaft or anything like that. Don't want it rubbing on the drive shaft that you can see there. So I'm going to go ahead from above because I can't get to it from below, see if I can tie it up any, take the slack out of it. So I need to work on that. And then the other thing that's a concern that I need to work on is the braided line for the oil pressure gauge that runs up to where it's mounted up on the valve cover. You can kind of see the shiny thing with the blue wire going to it up there. But anyway, I don't want that braided line rubbing on the paint and the frame rail and whatnot. So from above, I should be able to put some cushion clamps on it and just try and locate it a little bit more sturdily. So that is next on the list. All right, back up top, and you can see the clamp I put together. I used 2 cushion clamps, one of the large ones, same size actually I used for the sending unit, and then a smaller one that fit around the braided line. So I put the large one around the hard coolant pipe coming off the engine, water pump area, and then I just used a through bolt to hold the two together, so that will keep the braided line off the paint down there. It won't be rubbing on the frame rails. So that is off the list, so that should be all good there. Next is going to be to see if I can fish out the O2 sensor harness from the other side and just tighten that wiring up a little bit so it's not dangling. All right, and so for the back O2 sensor, it's probably going to be hard to see. It's hard to get focused on. There you go. You can see the drain for the block, and you can see that I have the extension wire and plug zip tied to that drain that sticks out of the block, pretty much dead center in your screen right there. So there's a zip tie on that holding it in place. That way, the actual wiring for it is snaking down alongside the block, which matches the angle of the O2 sensor, so it shouldn't flop on the drive shaft. It should stay put where I want it to, as you can kind of see from this angle if you look carefully. So that should cover that, and then there's enough, it's tight enough, the extension to where it goes into the connector that's on the cylinder head, tucked up there, where it shouldn't flop on the exhaust or anything. So we should be good as far as that wire goes and nothing hitting the exhaust. So I think as far as wiring concerns with everything back here and anything that would be too loose or whatnot and hitting exhaust, anything like that, I think we are good on the underside. There shouldn't be anything to be concerned with. That being said, it is a couple days after the comment I had about the belly pans. I did order those a few days ago. They are due in 2 days. So 2 days from now, I should have the 2 pans I ordered from MR2 Heaven. So that should be good, and I should be able to start getting the remainder of those put in place. So coming along. I think that is it as far as the wiring goes, like I said, underneath. Next on the list, I think I'm going to start snugging up suspension hardware because I have to get the rear stuff all buttoned up before I can put the wheels on, obviously. So I think I'm going to get to work on that next. All right, so it's been a couple days since the last clip, and I had said in the last clip next thing was going to be tightening up the suspension. Well, that got changed. I remembered that I wanted to get some POR 15 on the inner fender lips where they're rolled in case the paint's cracked on the inside, as well as on this side there were a couple of spots where some body work was done. So I just wanted to put some POR 15 on the back side of that as well. I do plan on trying to do a little bit of undercoating work, redoing the undercoating and the wheel arches once everything's all cleaned up. But as you can see, I got some POR 15 on there, and it goes up all the way around. And then there's some spots on this side, which are hard to see because of the shadow, but it's right there. So got that covered. Same thing, other side, it didn't have any body work, but it had the upper lip, so I went and just did the inside of the upper lip and touched up a few little spots where it was scraped and whatnot. So now that's done, I can go ahead and proceed with tighten up the suspension, get everything together. But first, in the meantime, I did get the panels I had ordered from Flying Miata. So there's the one small panel that goes here. I think it's called the downpipe panel for a turbo car, but it kind of deflects air upward. So I'm going to use that one, and then the one that goes here. So what I want to do is first I'm going to install this panel for this area here, get that done. I'm going to leave this one off, and then obviously the one that goes under the engine for now, just because I'm still wrapping up a few things. And then once I have that panel in, I can lower it down and put the weight on the suspension cross arms, the control arms, and start tightening things up as far as the suspension links go. So I'm going to get that center panel installed right now. All right, and that belly pan is installed. Kind of had to guess what fasteners went where, similar with the other ones, just because it's been so long, but went in pretty good. It's not a perfect fit. You do have to do a little pushing, but I also was kind of wrinkled and curled from shipping. So just, you know, one of those things, but went in pretty easy. So that is done. Next on the list is going to be to get the suspension tightened up. So what I think I'll do is jack this thing up, get the jack stands underneath the rear control arms, and then I can get everything torqued down. All right, so working on getting the suspension buttoned up, and yeah, with it apart, I had taken out the bolts on the cross member, this one here, and then the one that this control arm here goes through. Putting things back together, loosely tightening things up. All bolts are easy to get in except for this one. This one, you have to get this control arm at the right angle to get everything to thread. So if you look here, you can see my kind of somewhat sketchy setup. I've got my heavy duty jack underneath, and I have the weight of the car basically or I've got the suspension lifted to the point where it's not on the jack stand anymore. It's loosely on there. And then I've got a lighter duty jack with a piece of wood just pushing up on the bushing. That's what I had to do to get the bolt to thread in. I just had to kind of tap it in with that pressure on it. But as you can see, it's in there and it's seated now. So, I mean, it's still not torqued yet, but that's what you have to do if you do take those bolts out. Those two for the main control arm on the rear are a pain in the ass to try and get back in, and it definitely takes a little work. So just wanted to bring that to your attention. All right, and this side, everything is now torqued. I started with the main control arm. This one goes to 98 foot-pounds. Then I did the tie rod end over here. That was 76, I believe. And then I did this nut here, which I loosened on the tension or the forward control arm, and this goes to 87 foot-pounds. So this side's done. I am going to relieve the pressure off of the suspension. I do still need to torque the two bolts completely that hold the ball joint to the spindle, but that doesn't need to be done under load. So I'm going to get the jack off of the suspension, and then I have to go over the other side, do the other side. All right, and both tie rod bolts are in place, or not tie rod, the ball joint bolts on the bottom, one on each side, and those get torqued to 83 foot-pounds. So they are all set there. So yeah, this side is set other than the center nut on the spindle. I will, or for the axle, those have to get torqued pretty heavy duty. I'll get to those shortly, but I'm gonna get the suspension stuff sorted out on the other side first. All right, and driver's side is done. I've already got everything removed as far as the jacks go. This one, I just had to put the jack underneath the spindle over here, put full load on it, get the body off of the jack stand, and there's just a couple hits with a sledgehammer on the end of the bolt. Not hard hits, obviously, but just kind of tapped it in, and it was able to get seated in its spot, and then I was just able to run it down and get it torqued. So yeah, I ended up torquing the ball joint bolts on this one first, just to make sure everything was good there. Then got that one done, then went around and did the tie rod on the back, and then lastly the tension rod nut. So everything is tight on this side as well. All that's left is the sway bar links. That's an easy one. I'll do that later. And then the axle nuts. So I am gonna take a look into possibly getting those done next. All right, well, that was a lot less dramatic than I thought it would be. Other side's already done, and I just got this one torqued. Here's what I did. I set the e-brake, pulled it up as high as I could, put it in reverse so that way there is as much clamping force to keep the axles from moving just in the drivetrain, and then a long half-inch extension into the handle for my jack. Use that as a brace on the ground, and then handy-dandy snap-on torque wrench set to 217 foot-pounds of torque, because that's what this thing goes to. And sure enough, I was able to get torqued down. So both axle nuts are torqued to spec. I just need to put on the little locks and cotter pins, and then we should be good on the axles. All right, forget my last statement, being that these nuts that came with the axles have slots in them. I don't need to use the little retainer locks that the stock axles had because they were just regular nuts. But I did put the cotter pins through on both sides, so we are all done. Axles are installed, mounted, torqued. All that's left suspension-wise is getting the tie rod ends installed, so I'm going to do that next. All right, and just like that, end links are reinstalled on both sides. It was pretty easy. You just need the Allen bit and 14 mil. I ended up using crow's foot 14 mil, and then here's the Allen bit. It's a 5 mil. Just put this on and into the hole, and then use the crow's foot, and that way you can get it torqued. These are torqued 36 foot-pounds. So yeah, so the suspension is all done as far as tightening everything, putting it back where it was. So I think this is a good stopping point. Got a lot done in this video as far as trying to get the car put back together. It's really pretty much just getting all the interior bits in the trunk, in the frunk, get the fog lights reinstalled, topping off some fluids. I want to bleed the brakes in the clutch before it's back on the ground. But yeah, it's just a lot of that cleanup and reassembly. So that being said, I'm going to call it a video right here. If you like what you're seeing, learning something, please hit like, please hit subscribe, please hit the notification bell. And yeah, I think we're getting closer to the home stretch at least. So definitely gonna be more to come on this car. Looking forward to getting it on the road. Thank you for watching and have a great day.